Okay. So I did the start button to do this. I've been hitting start buttons all day, and it's just not been working for whatever reason. Welcome, everyone on YouTube. Thursday, a new 4.8 build is now available for Wave 3 testers. Indeed. Yeah, so like, I literally at 7 o'clock my time, I hit start streaming for Twitch. And then I was sitting there for 10 minutes setting everything up for YouTube. And I looked over. I was like, why is there nobody in chat? And then I looked down and I'm like, oh, it's not started streaming. There must be like something wrong with my mouse. That probably is that. I probably need a new mouse. Like clicks aren't registering for whatever reason. Because like I hit start streaming for YouTube. It was like, oh, this is good.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No views.
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
The game is hard. The worst part is, it's not even my gaming mouse.
Prospector Prime has subscribed.
Thank you so much for that subscription there. Prospector Prime with your Bezos bucks. You're very important, Papa. Very impressive, Pennsylvania pedestrian. This is your fault. The restaurant drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. So we were talking about the crossbow for this YouTube chat, and kind of like how it's sort of ridiculous that Star Citizen has a crossbow. And what I was trying to illustrate is that Star Citizen is not a realistic game. It never set out to be realistic. What it set out to do was to be realistic in a very specific niche, in that the old school style games of Elite and Wing Commander, obviously, and like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. That sort of realism. So I get a little fluffed up about stuff because people will come in and say like Star Citizen isn't a sim and thus it is no better than fucking Star Fox and no one should take it seriously. And it's as if like if it's either sim or shit. There is no in between. That if it's arcade, it might as well be the most arcadey thing of all time. Star Citizen might as well just be a fantasy game. Fuck you. That kind of thing. And the thing that I had to learn early on as following Star Citizen is that you're gonna have to get a little silly. The Star Citizen universe is inherently a little silly because they put in a bunch of like restrictions on themselves because Chris wanted to do something. And instead of thinking this is like an awful thing, just understand that like what you should be focusing on, first of all, is are you having fun? And if you're not having fun, don't play Star Citizen. Like that's just the real honest God truth. And if you are having fun, why do you care as much about like how realistic the ships are or how realistic changes are things to things? Elite does change things specifically so that like roll is more valuable, or yaw and pitch are more valuable than strafing. They intentionally restrict some of that movement because they wanted to get that sort of in atmosphere feeling. And that's done intentionally to sort of mimic that space fighter aesthetic of Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica, but not so much. But even Elite has its own aesthetics, its own changes, its own tweaks to how things should work, specifically because they want to go for an aesthetic in their field. Does that mean that Elite is just, No Man's Sky now? Or just might as well be, whatever? No, of course. It's its own thing. It's trying to do its own thing. My point is that I feel like people take Star Citizen far too seriously in terms of its aesthetics and in terms of what it's trying to be. Yeah, no, but I mean, like, iChamp says, I mean, Chris wants a World War II air combat in space. That makes zero sense. But that was always going to be the context. It's like, that's not something Chris never said anything other than that. But he at the same time said, I want to make a space sim. So people were like selectively forgot that Chris wants World War II in space. You know? If you can't get past fusion-powered ships that can't go faster than Mach 3 in a microgravity vacuum, why are you stressing over a crossbow? I'm okay with it, just like Gundam Minovsky particles allow for World War II space combat as well. And I think it was 00 that did something similar to that effect, where, like, no one was going to do anything because there was these particles that were neutralizing nuclear weapons. So instead of using nukes to kill each other, they had to develop these specific suits to be able to mimic the power of Metal Gear, as it were.
You can take away my spaceship.
Because there's an entire like plot of where like these particles could be neutralized, and the second they neutralize them, everyone's like, "We're gonna nuke the colonies," you know.
Take away my space game.
Gifted at Thor, a membership. Athon 43210 celebrates 9 months of membership.
Woo!
So many months.
Thanks, that's on both. Thank you so much, Thorn, for that 9 months of membership. You're very important, Papa. Very impressed, very pedestrian. This is probably just freaking I trust the choose, Jay. Y'all trust the choose. To be fair, a crossbow is probably one of the most realistic weapons to use in the vacuum of space compared to the current selection. Have you seen Legend of Galactic Heroes, Paul? They use the same concept, fill the air with combustive particles in order to nullify firearms, and people have to fight with axes. That's just because the guy who created the Legend of Galactic Heroes is a big fan of Dune. I haven't seen it, but I have been around it and consumed media from it for long enough to go like, yeah, no, I know Legend of Galactic Heroes. That's the one that's like a big epic space opera.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews. It's much more about the story and the characters than it is the actual combat and such.
Space game.
It's just so fucking long.
Pramster just resubscribed for 68 months. 07.
Thank you so much, Bramps, for that 68 months of support. You're very important, Papa. Very impressed with Surveying Pedestrian. This is probably your turn to good night. Shout out to cheers and chat. Y'all trust cheers. I've had a cough for some reason that's developed. I think it's because of other things that have happened here. It's just annoying more than anything else. People who are angry against crossbows should be fuming about the fact that the Vandals still use spears in CQB combat. That sort of makes sense because they're aliens. They're not like humans. Like, one of the things that defines humans from every other animal is that we use projectile weapons. Like straight up, we use projectile weapons. Other animals use tools. Other animals like are smart and can problem solve. We are the tool-creating, problem-solving weapon throwers. And if you look at the history of human warfare, it is all who can build the better fucking projectile weapon, the better or cheaper projectile weapon. Yeah, and those spears are also guns. But it's just that the Vandul, if you have a species like the Vandul who are genetically impervious to vacuum, their bodies themselves are armored, so they actually have a carapace around them. I imagine the simple stone or axe, simple stone or wooden projectile weapons will probably do jack and or shit to a Vanduul in combat. So yeah, you're going to have to develop something that is very, very heavy that you can break through that armor. Question, do you think the battlecruiser will be sold in the future after the initial sale? Not only do I think, I guarantee it will. CIG is very, very consistent in that they will sell whatever they have as long as they can. I am honestly surprised they haven't announced that they're selling the command module. They've done it for every single ship. Yeah, Deadly Bird pointed out that like CIG literally did the Kraken. The same thing with like the write us an essay as to why you should have a why you should be able to get a an Odin, and we'll give you early access to buy one. They did the same thing with Kraken. I know people are upset that like what Space Marine talked about with the finances. It's like it's not really like what CIG's finances are. It's not realistic, and my only thought is it probably isn't. But at the same time, you got to remember that this stuff is something that lives in your head. So even if you have everything handled and you have an accountant who's really good at handling these things and says, relax, guy, we got this. You're not going to it's very unlikely that several million pounds, so is it 35 million pounds of debt that they have, is just gonna like disappear overnight in terms of like you should be able to sleep with it and not worry about it, even if you have it handled. So I still believe that CIG is putting a time crunch on things because of the finances, but I think it has more to do with a lot of different things. Finances, it has to do with like, it's been 12, 13 years. Like at a certain point, you're gonna have to get a game out. So why not just do it? Am I getting one? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The biggest ship I have is a Banu Merchantman, and I feel like that's too big. I also have a Ironclad Assault, but we're not going to talk about that, and a Perseus, but we're not going to talk about that. To be fair, the Perseus is technically like 4-man, so it's not that big. Come on, guys, just release the game. How hard could it be? Well, it's I don't know how to explain this, because it's a lot easier to make a game than it is to release a game. When you make a game, you can always potentially release it at some point, but when you release a game, it's done, it's finished. You have to put it out for other people to see, and it's going to be harsh because you may not come across as you think it is. Did CIG's plan, or the stretch goals also listed flyable cruisers and escort carriers? Did CIG's plans change since the battlecruiser is being listed as the last concept? No, because we already have the cruiser and the escort carrier. You saw them in Squadron 42. They called one of them the Argus. What are the other ones called? Basically, the one with all the guns, the little Bengal, the Bengal clone with all the guns is a cruiser, and the Bengal clone that looks like it has a bunch of flight decks is the escort carrier. The thing that replaced the Pegasus. So they already have them. It's just they'll release them straight to flyable because they already have the models and they have the specs. They just don't have the interiors. Schrodinger's game dev, not really. It's more of a it's a mental thing. It's very difficult because you can always improve. There are like legitimately authors who have released the same book like 7 different times so that they could tweak and improve and add things to their book. What's his name? Francis Ford Coppola, I think, who did Apocalypse Now. He released Apocalypse Now like 5 times. The original Cyberpunk movie, Blade Runner, has been released like 4 times, including like director's cuts and stuff like that. So if you let Chris do it, he will spend forever to make Squadron, because he will always find better things to do or more fun things to do. So you need to have a push of just, you need to get it done. It doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't matter how bad it is. We need to get it out. We need to have goals and set it and release it. You know, there's 4 specific cuts that reorder the presentation. So I get it, but I mean, the game is not good or bad until you open the boxes in. Yeah, that's true. I have a buddy who upgraded his Argo cargo to an BMM. Funny part is the Argo cargo was a referral reward, so now he can't melt it. He has been stuck with this in hangar for years, now with no way of melting it without anything actually releasing. Goddamn. Battle Cruiser is simply being concepted now as it's their last Kickstarter goal they didn't really commit to yet. Yep. Like I've said this many times, I feel like Squadron 42 is likely going to be slightly more polished and a bit better in terms of performance and maybe gameplay than what was I thinking? Kingdom Come Deliverance. And the thing about Kingdom Come Deliverance is that when it released, it was very big with a niche crowd. It did well. It sold plenty of copies, even though it was Kickstarted. But people really didn't like, really, really like the game until Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Jesus fuck. I'm gonna have to mute that because it's gonna go through each one of them.
At Ackland gifted at Ackle a membership.
I'm gonna have to mute that because it's gonna go through every single one of those now.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space laser.
Thank you so much for gifting that 20 bomb on YouTube there, Ackland. You're a very important pumper, very impressive pisser, very good pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Damn.
Cape H907 just resubscribed for 17 months. Rocket Shrike for 17 months.
Rocket Strike for 17 months. Thank you so much there. Scape, you're very important, but very impressive, surveying pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat. Y'all, shots and cheers. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Chris put a fuck ton of money into KCD. Like, he put a lot of money into KCD1. He helped them kickstart. He promoted their Kickstarter. He has his own mural in the game as a result. They actually traded technologies, but then they ended up not using the technologies, but like they ended up trading technologies. Like CIG gave them PBR, or it's like project-based lightning or projection-based rendering, something like that. Particle-based rendering, I don't remember what PBR stands for. It was big at the time. And KCD gave them their cloth physics. Okay, Hammer 2 was laser recalled and coming out this month. It's called the Tiburon. And Taria the Fox. I don't know where you can buy the crossbow in the PTU. Does anyone know where you can buy the crossbow in the PTU? Is it in the patch notes? I haven't read the patch notes yet, so. Apparently it's only from TSG for this patch. Because they said they were going to release it for everybody. Blueprint on TSG. What is TSG? I'm trying to blank on that one. And the crossbow store, of course. Tactical strike group. Okay. Oh, and you have to get.
Brothers, strike from the sky.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, from Locust Stream. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shell, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astropub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Deadly Bird, you got this. Players can currently use the crossbow in single elimination AC matches, as well as receiving blueprint reward from competing TSG. Okay, nice. Yeah, tactical strike groups. How you doing, Logan? What were you up to? We gotta figure out what we're gonna do tomorrow. I thought maybe Helldivers, but then again, it depends on, we may be at super Star Citizen hypes. Might do that. I haven't done the TSGs at all, so. He ran a trench run with a Perseus. Damn. Fit. Imagine like a train running into the small tunnel gif. His bus driving prepared him for that trench run, I bet. It's crazy to think that Squadron 2 come out in June. Yes, no, it's absolutely crazy for Star Citizen to come out. Squadron 2 to come out in June. And this is a trust me bro source, so it's one of those things where you can take it or leave it. But I can tell you right now that the people I've talked to at CIG who work on Squadron 42, all of them at around the same time told me the same date for the release date. Well, month for the release date. It wasn't June. I'll just say that.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space.
I wouldn't crash out. I would be very happy that it's out, but I would also be pissed off that CIG did nothing, and their numbers will reflect that.
Take away my space game.
Victor.
If they stealth drop this stupid game, I'd crash out. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably get mad. I'd be happy that it's released, but yeah, the fact that they would do no marketing for it would be like, God damn it, you fucking idiots. listen, October isn't a crazy idea. Mostly because we've seen this sort of thing before with Starfield being hyped to Kingdom Come and Baldur's Gate 3 releasing a month before as a way to avoid the Starfield bulldozer that was coming at them. And they had more of a reason because Starfield was releasing on PC and consoles, whereas BG3 was just releasing on PC. Kingdom Come Deliverance. I mentioned that earlier. Yes, Kingdom Come Deliverance. No, I said BG3, Baldur's Gate 3. Starfield was trash. Well, I disagree, but I think the general popular opinion is that it's trash. But 89 Dig Dug, you forget. At the time, it was not considered trash. People thought it was going to be the Star Citizen killer. People thought it was going to be fucking Skyrim and goddamn space. People were hyped as fuck for that game. Do not underestimate how much people love that game until it was released. And that's what I mean, is that they made the tactical decision to not release their game, BG3, I mean, Baldur's Gate 3, when it was originally supposed to release around the same time. They said, fuck that, we're pushing it earlier. They pushed it about a month earlier, and while everyone was waiting for Starfield, people found BG3 and played it. I liked Starfield as far as I got into it. It was very interesting, but I understand why people did not like it, and it bounced off of a lot of people because they were expecting something that it was never going to be. But of course, Bethesda didn't give a fuck. They were going to hype it as the next best thing they've ever made because they've been making it for 20 years. And I think Todd is still burned from that because that was Todd's baby. Todd has never created an original IP. I'm going to say that again. Todd Howard has not made a single original IP in his life. All of the games he's been the head of were somebody else's baby that he picked up midway through. He helped release Elder Scrolls 4 or Elder Scrolls 3, and then was the head of Elder Scrolls 4, but by that time the Elder Scrolls universe was well and established. Same with Fallout 3 and Fallout. So yeah, Starfield is his first original IP that he'd been thinking about since 2000. I did the research. I looked it up. This man has been thinking about that game for 20 fucking years. It is the thing that he has always wanted to make. It's his version of Star Citizen and Squadron 42 in the sense of like, oh, it's Chris has always wanted to make Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. And that's gotta burn. That's gotta chap his ass. That people are like, at best going, and at worst being like, this is dog shit. Yeah, it's always. I always like to point out that like what you see in Starfield is exactly what CIG was going to do with Star Citizen. The difference between Starfield and Star Citizen is that Star Citizen would have been multiplayer, and also you could fly between planets and stuff like that. But the whole like land on planets as a cutscene, and pre-rendered locations, like you can go land on this planet, and you can go to this landing zone and walk around, but you'd have to get back in your ship and fly away to go to another place. Yeah, that is what Star Citizen was originally going to be. And then they've evolved from that. I heard an interesting story about Todd Howard. Apparently, take or leave this, but a bunch of game developers were going to the same school that Todd Howard went to, his alma mater in terms of game development. and they began to make jokes about physics. And so anytime something happened, like something fell, they began to joke, said, "Thanks, Todd Howard," or "Thanks, Todd," when something happened, because they were like IRL physics, like breaks sort of thing. And at one point, the guy who's posting said he was going to meet his friends who were waiting for him in front of the doors, and his backpack slipped off his arm, and he said, "Oh, thanks, Todd." And then he heard this, "Are we doing this now?" And he turns around, and it's Todd fucking Howard, who just looks the most exasperated he's ever seen him, because he was clearly there to go talk to people about game development. This was like in 2010, 2011, like post Skyrim. Yeah, I've heard that. You may have heard this story before, but like, yeah. He's apparently very upset about this jokes. I recently had a conversation with a couple of people. They said free claiming on LTI ships will never go away. What do you mean by that? Because I only have limited experience with the LTI claim stuff. Where do we the next one is on the pipe, or where do we think next one's in the pipe is in the pipeline? This summer, I would say July or September, one of the two. Hey Max, I'm gonna get some water real quick. I'll be right back. We'll do some DefenseCon stuff. But to answer your question, Steve, as far as I understand, all ships have free claim and pay claim. And the thing about LTI is that LTI will give you free claim, but it will not give you free claim with any modified stuff. No, I didn't fill out the form. If you bought ships with real money and they have LTI, you will always be able to get them back for free. Yes. Isn't that the case right now anyways?
Free, y'all.
That you can get ships you purchased even without like LTI, you get them back for free. That breaks game. How so? You don't get any of your updated modules. You don't get it back for free. If you have a ship that's LTI and you add a bunch of custom stuff to it, including custom loadouts, and you do the free buy, you get the base ship that you got with the ship, not the updated. As far as I remember, the current basic version of the insurance is the same insurance claim of 2.6. I think so, yeah. Money by fraud? Not really, because once you've claimed it, it bricks the ship. So once you've claimed a ship, it will brick it, and you have a couple of minutes to deal with it before it gets completely unusable. So if you claim the ship, that ship that you left out will become unplayable. So you can't like dupe it or anything like that. You can salvage it, but you won't be able to make nearly as much money off of that process. I imagine you don't make nearly as much money off of the ship as you would the claim. They've changed the rates, right? Where like the full buyback is a little different than it used to be. Because it used to be like the full actual price, which was kind of insane. It's more now? I thought it was going to be less. You're going to get Squadron 42 newsletter next week? Possibly. Depends on if they get an announcement. Hey, Ella Paul, how's it keeping? A new patch has dropped in PTU. What are your thoughts on the ship insurance, the Caterpillar, and the command module, or the new flight suit stuff? We'll talk about it here in a moment. That's actually literally what we're going to do. I'm going to start with the DefenseCon stuff and we'll move on from there.
Barcelona! Barcelona! Genesis! Genesis?
Good news, everyone!
All right.
Drugs.
I think a system with 16 gigabytes of RAM would do well. Would do fine. I don't know if I'll do a capsule. We'll see. Have you tested TGS and PTU with lore yet? No, that's the plan for this Sunday if we can do it. Oh, they added the hand walking in 0G? That's nice. This quite disappointing? What do you mean, Escape?
At Danny, super short at $100. Love
Holy
the
shit.
content. Keep up the great work.
Jesus fucking Christ. $100 from Daniel. The content, thanks for keeping the thank you. Holy fuck. Jesus Christ. Thank you. Hey, X, how's it going? Hey, can I link a Spectrum, Fred, where we can all brigade on? What the hell are you talking about? I need to get your dates when you're available for DefenseCon. What are the dates again for it? I'll send it to you there here in a moment, X. May 14th to 15th. I won't be honest. I'm probably not going to be available for much of it because I'm still testing those days. Yeah. Like much of basically when it ends, when DefenseCon ends, is when I'm in the middle of testing. So it'll be for me this year. It's effectively the 16th, and the 17th. So Origin, because I'll be at work for 14th to 15th. I'll be at work the 18th through the 22nd. So yeah. Maybe I could do all right, I'll let you know when I get done. All right, let's watch this bad boy. Oh, wait, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the absolutely awesome and wonderful video from a couple of days before this. So that's me. Talk a little bit about that. Oh, also, this is my favorite. This is my favorite fake news, by the way. This is fake. Do not take this as real. This is fake. But it was fun. Someone shared it with me. Like, neat. It's a good mock-up, actually. Yeah, Deadly Bird shared it with me on Discord. Because their heads are cut off, yes. Yes. Brian Chambers.
This is James Harriman with a breaking SS.
There we go. Thank you, James Harriman. Please don't blow my ears out.
This is James Harriman with a breaking SSN CATV news flash. Footage has emerged of Drake's CEO and an Arden stirring up controversy yet again.
United? Yeah, okay. It's real funny how those UEE shills suddenly had urgent business back in Sol. So yeah, Drake stepped in. Someone had to. For the people, remember?
This time he's taking aim at the UEE and Invictus Launch Week's abrupt retreat to Sol.
And hey, we're proud, real proud, to welcome all manufacturers. No hidden agenda, no glossy bait. Even if a certain heavily armored silhouette just happens to overshadow the ironclad, that's not the point.
According to the divisive CEO, DefenseCon 2956 will be going ahead bigger than ever, with a full roster of manufacturers previously scheduled to be at Invictus.
This is for the independents, the haulers, the homesteaders, the freelancers, the ones who don't get flyovers. So yeah, DefenseCon will show them how it's really done. And hey, the UEE is always welcome too.
Will DefenseCon truly deliver for the everyday heroes of the system on this unprecedented scale? Stay tuned. This is James Harriman signing off.
I love that. And now for the real hero. All right. Let's do it.
Hell yeah! DefenseCon always has your back. We want to celebrate you, the everyday heroes, the best way we know how. With damn good ships. I'm Andon Arden, and I'll see you at DefenseCon 2956.
Fuck yeah. "14-second mark of the crowd on the far left."
Dem biddies.
Herald boom and zoom of last
Wait, we
year's
know how-
TFW.
My go forward button is working. What about the far left? It's the pit bull. I have 14 seconds. You gotta watch this on YouTube. Over there? You sure? Maybe? I don't know. It's hard to tell what it is anyways. It's really blurry. Like right here, chat, is what he's talking about. It's super low to the ground, yeah. But it could also be the golem. Because it's got the golem chair. I can see this right here. That's the chair. So it's got the golem chair. It's golem looking. It's got the cockpit, but this also doesn't look like it's a clear cockpit either. So they might put it in the they get the exterior done, so they might put the exterior of it out somewhere. Drake Pitbull is a vehicle? It's probably not a vehicle. It's probably a ship. Someone said that gotta love how Jake is so American. Yeah, baby. You're gonna see it again because that's what Americans do. That's what heroes do.
Hell yeah. DefenseCon always has your back.
The Iron Chad.
We want to celebrate you, the everyday heroes, the best way we know how. With damn good ships. I'm Andon Arden, and I'll see you at DefenseCon 2956.
Fuck yeah. There's a Drake poster at 16 seconds.
With
Oh, there is. Drake, fuck yeah. Run the skies. And everyone's dead. You've killed everyone with the jet wash, bud. The pilot's not wearing any Navy gear. You're goddamn right, because this ain't no fucking Navy shit. This is for the working man. This is for the everyman. This is for you, pilot. Drake DefenseCon. Let you run the skies. Fuck the government. Again, every time Ed Arden opens his mouth, it feels like he's just holding back from the, like, I would like to overthrow the UEE government because taxes suck. The other sold destined manufacturers don't make sense at DrakeCon. It's odd. Sense. Basically, as far as I understand, they were gonna do Invictus, and then at the last minute, the Navy pulled out. So because these sorts of events take time and planning, I'd imagine most of the manufacturers that were planning to send stuff to Area 18 were already in the process of sending stuff to Area 18. And the Bevic Convention Center was already set up for it. So like they already had everything prepared for the Bevic Convention Center. So it would have been a waste to just not have it. And Drake is like, fuck it, we'll pay for it. We're going to do DefenseCon anyway, so why don't we just pay for the big stage now? So that's basically what it is. It's basically Drake stepped up and then footed the bill that the that was going to be left. Bevic was going to be left holding the bag from the Navy. You gotta think about it like that. Entrepreneur takeover. And, you know, if you're already going there to show off your ships and Drake is paying for you're paying the fees and your MISC, the most you're going to do is grumble and be like, whatever, I ain't got to pay shit. It's a big middle finger to the UEE with a smile from Drake. I love it. I love it. See, the thing is that these videos really highlight the fact that, like, you got to understand, Drake wants to destroy the Empire. They don't want to destroy the Empire for, like, political reasons. They're not there to be like, we're going to kill everyone and overthrow with a new glorious revolution. No, they want to fuck over the Empire because the Empire fucked with them. and constantly did so. And they set up in Magnus specifically as a giant fuck you to the UEE. And Magnus hates the UEE because they basically strangled their local economy to death and then abandoned them after strangling them to death. So what you really got to understand is that Drake is begrudgingly still in the UEE because that's where the market is. But if they could get away with not paying any taxes, they absolutely would. Well, Drake did accept other manufacturers turning up because they already booked their slots. Yeah. Where's the UE Navy Expo? It's not going to be there this year. Basically, it's been canceled, Max. Yeah, that's effectively what it is, Renamon. Is that Drake is the Bevic Convention Center and ArcCorp was left holding the bag when the Navy pulled out at the last minute. So Drake stepped in and said, fine, we'll pay for it. And so because Drake is paying for it, they get to put their advertising over everything. But they're going to honor all the slots where people were because that's what Drake does. That is exactly the level of petty that Drake would do. The IG consistently gets Drake right because that's just how petty they are. It's like, don't worry, Misk. We know you spent a lot of money and time and effort getting all of your cool stuff to show up at a convention center. The Navy fucked you over, didn't they? Don't worry. Drake's here to save you. Smile smugly. A chance to make the UE look foolish? Say less. Yeah. We follow through on the promises the USC lets you down for. That's sort of the whole point of DefenseCon. DefenseCon is basically like, the UEE cannot protect you. There is danger everywhere. But we can sell you the protection, independence, self-reliance. We can protect you. We can help you protect yourself for a modest fee. I do think that next year they'll do Invictus on Castra. Castra makes a lot of sense to do it. Yeah, Drake to the rest of the companies, first time. I don't think it's the fleet retreating is attacking Vandal attacking Sol, though I definitely think it has something to do with Squadron. I have a feeling that it has something to do with Squadron. It might be a last minute honoring of the fallen of Vega or something like that. Sol is very far away from Santa, but it is close to Vega. So could be the last year in Stanton for a while, probably. I would imagine that Castra and then Terra will probably end up being the Invictus week. And then there is the actual place where IAE is supposed to be held, and I think that place will be the place that you go to once they release it. But I think IAE will remain in Stanton. It makes a lot of sense. It's the capital of commerce, so. UEE fluffy fights and Drake civil heavy fight. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, the ILW is a flight academy graduation event. I don't think we can read too much into the fleet going back to Sol, except for it's because of our proximity to the reality that Squadron 42 is going to come out soon. I think that's the big thing. CIG will probably use this as an excuse for not producing any new ILW paints. Those pricks. They will. They'll just be black and red. Everyone gets black and red. What can we read into the pro-measure protests? What the fuck are you talking about, pro-measure protests? Oh, I see that now. Emancipation Day celebrations disrupted by protesters. Demonstrators seen holding banners with pro-measure messaging. Sherman's local Emancipation Day celebrations were forced to finish early when a group of protesters suddenly stormed the parade route. Footage from the event shows a demonstration calling for the dissolution of the current government and the return to the golden age of the Measure dynasty. Cascom police made multiple arrests as members of the group manacled themselves to parade vehicles. You know what that means, chat. This is from the new loading screen. You know what that means, chat. You know what that means. If you don't, I can elucidate, but there's some big things we can pull from that. The Measures are, well, I mean, they're definitely Meserites. Me and Al have talked about that for a while, that the Xeno threat definitely represents the sort of Meserite extreme wing of the centralists, which are basically the light Meser supporters. Civil War? Nope. So there's a missing Meser, Fiona Meser. She was the last Meser known to have lived. Her brother was Linton Meser, who was the last Meser to rule. In fact, Fiona was the one who had a bunch of pet terrorists that she was going to use to try to overthrow her brother. They went rogue and caused the revolution without her, so she disappeared after that. Now, that was several hundred years ago, but we have this wonderful thing called cryogenic freezing in the Star Citizen universe, which has existed for a long time. And you never let a good villain go to waste. So I have theorized for a long time that the return of the Mesers was going to be an event, and that Fiona Meser would be returned to attempt to foment a civil war to overthrow the UEE. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a pro-Meser regime, a pro-Meser group, as the main bad guys, kind of like the Shattered Blade and the whatever the groups are in Rockbreaker, I forget their name. And the Xeno threat in Pyro, the Nine Tails in Stanton, a sort of generic bad guys faction in Castro. There is an Alex Jones in the Star Citizen universe, and it's played by an actual actor who is far better than I could ever be. It's the indomitable, wonderful. Why am I blanking on his name? He played the Doctor in Doctor Who. Capaldi, yes. Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi is the guy. Plain Truth with I fucking up his name. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Parker Terrell. He plays Parker Terrell. Thank you, Jaden. I love Capaldi as an actor, though. He's a very good actor. And I think Capaldi was a better classic Doctor than Tennant. Tennant was a good new Doctor, but Capaldi, the thing about Capaldi is that he was an actual Doctor Who superfan back in the day, like significantly was growing up. So he has more of a 1960s, 70s Doctor than the moderns ones did. I think Capaldi could pull off the crazy Alex Jones vibe. Question: so Casper end of this year, this year or coming next year? Coming this year. That's the other thing that is almost certainly with them teasing this kind of shit. It's the middle of the end of this year. Casper's coming this year. I said at the very beginning of the year that Casper's coming this year. All of you said I was crazy. That's true. I'm also crazy, but like that doesn't mean I'm wrong. Both can be true. I stand by you, still crazy. But I'm right. Let me see if I can pull that up. I love the reply of this, the Zephyrus and Cossacks. That's great. You read it with Matt Berry? Okay, we're going to listen to this real quick. We're going to listen to it. This is one of the best written letters of all time. This was a letter written by Ukrainian Cossacks to the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, and it is the most go fuck yourself letter you have ever read in your life.
As the Sultan, son of Muhammad, brother of the sun and moon, grandson and viceroy of God, ruler of the kingdoms of Macedonia, Babylon, Jerusalem, Upper and Lower Egypt, emperor of emperors, sovereign of sovereigns, extraordinary knight, never defeated, steadfast guardian of the tomb of Jesus Christ, trustee chosen by God himself, the hope and comfort of
the video audio
and great defender of the Christians. I command you, the Zaporozhian Cossacks, to submit to me voluntarily and without any resistance, and to desist from troubling me with your attacks.
That was a letter written to the Cossacks of southern modern day Ukraine. And this was their response. Hold on. To give you context, this is literally a visual representation of what you're about to hear. This is them writing that letter. This is so iconic in Ukrainian history and Ukrainian culture that this has been remade by Ukrainians in just about every conflict they've ever been in to recreate this art piece.
Sultan, Turkish devil, and damned devil's kith and kin, secretary to Lucifer himself. What kind of knight are you, huh? You can't slay a hedgehog with your naked ass. You know what? The devil shits and your army eats it. You will not, you son of a bitch.
He's
make subjects of Christian sons. We've no fear of your army. By land and by sea, we will battle thee and fuck your mother. You Babylonian scullion. You Macedonian wheelwright. You're a brewer of Jerusalem. You're a goat fucker of Alexandria. You're swineherd of Greater and Lesser Egypt. Pig of Armenia. Podolian thief, catamite of Tartary. Hangman of Canaanites, and fool of all the world and underworld, an idiot before God, grandson of the serpent and the crickener dick. Pig snout, mare's arse, butcher's dog, unchristened brow, screw your own mother.
That's just imagine these people are writing this down right now.
So the Zaporozhians
that's literally this
declare,
happening.
You lowlife. You won't even be herding pigs for the Christians. Now we'll conclude. For we don't know the date, and we don't own a calendar. The moon's in the sky, the year with the Lord. The day's the same over here as it is over there. And for this, kiss our arse.
It is a real letter that it was sent to the Sultan. The funniest thing, the Sultan never responded. The Sultan just kind of went, all right. Again, these fuckers, these fuckers right here. This is a famous image of that letter being written because you can tell it's all of these being like, call him a goat fucker, you know? Like, it is an institution in Ukrainian ideology or Ukrainian culture because of the Cossacks make a huge part of the Ukrainian culture. Because they're so absolutely like independent, fiercely independent. Have they done one for Russia yet? The modern Ukrainian army literally recreated this scene, and I think they did a letter like that as a result. Like there's a picture of the Ukrainians doing this very same scene. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. God, they've done it multiple times. Like it has been done a lot. A lot. Like a lot. Like a lot. I mean, yeah, you also have to get the context. This is a small tribe of effectively steppe raiders, the Zaporisian Cossacks. They're like the Huns or the Mongols. Like, they're not that much different from those groups. The same place they were living in, the same regions. So this small band of effectively horsemen told the military, the head of the military superpower of the day, the Ottoman Empire, to go fuck themselves in like 7 different ways. And the Sultan's response was, all right. But much later, after civilization was built on those borders. I mean, we're talking about a culture that was a steppe culture. The Cossacks are a steppe culture. Like, no different from, say, the original Huns or the gosh, what am I blanking on? It was one of the barbarian tribes that came into Rome. The Goths or the Vandals. One of those. But yeah. As far as I can understand, I'm not an expert in that sort of history, but it's as far as I've come to understand, historically speaking, there are 2 groups of people you should never fuck with: hill people and steppe people, because they will fuck you. They will kill you. They'll burn civilizations to the ground. They will destroy the whole planet if you mess with them. Yeah, Sultan. I'm sorry. I apologize. I did not recognize your game. And to put this back into the Star Citizen connection, the one of the main planets of or one of the main cities of Borea, which is in Magnus, capital of where Drake Interplanetary is located, is called Odessa. So take that with what you will. I think it's actually where Drake is headquartered, is Odessa. Hill people, steppe people, sea people, yeah. No, it's spelled a little different. Because it's not spelled O-D-E-S-S-A, it's spelled O-D-Y-S-S-A. O-D-Y-S-S-A, yeah. I mean, any people that would climb through your chamber pot castle wall outlet to murder you in your sleep are not people you want to push. I mean, I think the Cossacks would make great exception for being put in the same bag. Great exception of Mongols or the Huns. I mean, the Huns and the Mongols and the Cossacks would all hate each other, but they're all in the same. They're all similar, like, culture. It's like the Romans and the Greeks didn't fucking like each other either, but they're both Mediterranean. The Norse and the Germans probably wouldn't like being put in the same boat, but they're both fucking Northern European. Like, what are you gonna do? All right, you come from the same region, you're gonna have similar values. Racing Prodigy hospitalized. Are we finally getting NPC racings? I don't know. It's just something they put in there. Sometimes they'll get something like that, but yeah. So the that announcement, by the way, is 100%. We got into a little bit of a sidetrack, but that Turtle Fuse is back. I've seen the Anvil Mjolnir, yeah. We're getting Castra. We're getting Castra before the end of the year. We're probably gonna get a new. I'm thrilled, floored that CIG is actually gonna do a Pro Mezzer faction. There's some balls with a Pro Mezzer faction, because like a Pro Mezzer faction would be very, very complicated. Like Xenothreat is effectively a Pro Mezzer faction, but they're in Pyro. A Pro Mezzer faction in Castra, effectively a neo-Nazi group in Castra. I'm sorry. we got the Grand Wizard of the KKK showing up in fucking Fort Bragg. What? Neo-Mezzers. Yeah, that's probably a good term for them. Neo-Mezzers. Do you think companies and people of the verse would be as all in Gen AI for art as the current world's corporations even certainly seem to be? No, because there is literally a ban on that kind of shit in the UEE. Anything close to artificial intelligence, even like what they're doing with Gen AI, which isn't really a general intelligence, wouldn't make a lot of sense. People are very nervous about that shit. The Sea Peoples may not have existed, is the thing. We don't know if the Sea Peoples actually existed. There's some modern scholarship that believes that Sea Peoples were a myth, an invention. But yeah, it's all. We may be seeing shadows, seeing the shadows and interpreting for actual things, because the records of the Sea Peoples mostly hinge on very broken accounts from the Egyptians. But we do know that the Bronze Age collapse happened around the same time, so. Like the Atlanteans. So, if the Sea Peoples did exist, they would be from like Sicily. They're basically talking about sea pirates, raiders, similar to the Vikings, but in the Mediterranean. So there was a belief a long time ago. I think one historian said it, which was the idea that the Bronze Age collapse happened either partially or wholly because a group of barbarian sea people, sea raiders, came and destroyed all of the civilizations around the Mediterranean. And failed to destroy Egypt. But by that time, the supply lines and the major cities and towns which had supported civilization of that time had been destroyed, had been wiped out. For those of you who don't know, there's actually a period in time between the Bronze Age and the Iron Age where effectively the world ended. Only a handful of civilizations survived and managed to put the pieces back together. It's one of the reasons why we have like the Persian Empire was able to exist. It's one of the reasons why the Greeks were able to rise up and why the Egyptians were able to survive and get a little bit bigger. I remember there's a similar conjecture about dragons and the similar ideas of the creature around the world aligned after major meteor impact. Well, it's like a lot of people know it's likely that mammoth skulls was the origin of the belief of giants, because mammoth skulls have this giant fucking hole where the trunk would be. That's where it's placed. And so if you look at it, it looks like there's a giant cyclops. So they believe that like cyclops myths came from mammoth bones. Bronze Age collapse. Yeah, no. The other big thing about human history that you learn is that climate is very, very important. And when climate changes, which it does frequently, not super frequently, but like when it does change in a dramatic way, it causes, again, world-shattering ending collapses. Like the Mayans almost certainly collapsed because of environmental changes, and around that same time as the stresses and crashes of many other civilizations. I want to say it lines up with the fall of the Han and the fall of the Roman Empire, or similar falls. Yeah, the Bronze Age collapse definitely also had there was definitely some sort of environmental collapse. Pretty much every major civilization that has collapsed in the world has multiple factors, one of which is weather. Weather or climate changed dramatically and causes problems. Like it's important to understand that like the world was significantly warmer during the medieval period, because we have records of vineyards in Scotland. So you could grow grapes in Scotland. And the medieval warm period was a huge factor in sort of the rise of medieval Europe and that kind of stuff. Yeah, the Little Ice Age with Krakatoa. I think that was the Little Ice Age. Might have been another one. There's also the Year Without a Sun, I want to say. Was it like 5 or 6 AD, 600 AD, where like there was an entire, not an entire year, but it was like the sun disappeared for a long period of time. When I was a kid, the idea of snow in southern England was a rarity. Gulf Stream was stronger. Yeah. Wasn't the Year Without a Sun around the Justinian plague? It was somewhere around the same time period. Yeah. TLDR things change. They do. But it's whenever we associate the fall of an empire, it's always something. I've been doing a video on the fall of the UEE, so this is why it's fresh in my mind. We always associate the fall of an empire with one thing, like the sack of Rome, the war of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the War of the Three Kingdoms with the Han Empire. So we have a cataclysmic, the fall of Constantinople. We have a cataclysmic view of history, but in reality, empires don't fall in one big push. They fall over time, and it's usually half dozen reasons why it falls. It's usually some sort of internal strife, like internal corruption, separation. With the Han, it was the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which caused decentralization of the military, of the Chinese military, so that many local lords began to build their own militaries. And then, of course, when you have a lord who has a military, that military is loyal to the lord, not to the emperor. And then they also had, after the rebellion was put down, a lot of the powers taken away. There was corruption of the eunuchs inside the Han imperial dynasty. Like, the eunuchs really ran the show. They murdered so many emperors so that they could control. Similar to in Rome, where the fucking the royal guards, I always forget their name. Those are the P, not the Palatine. But yeah, the imperial guards of Roman emperors, the Praetorians, thank you, the Praetorians, would just fucking stab emperors if they didn't like it, and they'd like put new emperors into place. You had the rise of, I want to say, Buddhism around that time. I'd be wrong on that one in the Han Empire, because like Hinduism Confucianism had ruled the day. I think Buddhism started to spread around that time period. Maybe Taoism. I know Confucianism and Taoism were like at war with each other at that same time. And then with Rome, it was the spread of Christianity, which was starting to break apart the old ideals. And because Rome is very heavy-handed in its dealing with people, they don't like differences, and the way they deal with differences is they fucking kill you. So you adapt, you conform, or we stab you to death. The breakdown of the Roman state, the Roman bureaucracy, same with the Han, breakdown of the Han bureaucracy, sort of leads to people no longer being able to rely on the central government. And if you can't rely on the central government, you have to become more independent, which means sort of drift away from the main state, and eventually it becomes you're in control of all yourself. So is the stream choppy? Hold on. Oh, it's unstable. Give me a moment. Okay. Also, the Han had a complete separation of the Korean lords from the China, as well as similar state uprisings. Yes, it's not looking on my end. The point being, for those of you who don't know, I'm doing a exclusive Patreon video soon for that the UEE will fall. We know that the UEE is going to fall because CIG has already told us that UEE will fall, and the players will have some play into it. But I'm talking a lot about how the UEE is based off the Roman Empire, but in general, the things that CIG is setting up, intentionally or unintentionally, and I think a lot of it is intentional, is showing that the Empire is ripping itself apart. Orison and Stanton in general is being bullied by a absolute madman when it comes to the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails are vicious bandits. And they can't be stopped. in any other era of UEE history, the UEE would have sent in the Navy. They would have found all of the Nine Tails and they would have murdered them. They would have lined them up against the wall and shot them. They would have like decimated them for their crimes. But the UEE is so weak that they don't want to spend the money to do it. So they let the corporations deal with it. And the corporations are so weak because they don't give a fuck. They want money. They don't really care about stability. Look at Xenothreat. Xenothreat being allowed to exist in itself is a threat to the UEE. They invaded UEE territory and attacked military hardware. They attacked a military base and a military ship in UEE space. And they had to ask for random civilians to help them. Generally speaking, it's not a good thing if the military is asking for random volunteers to protect their bases. Yes, somehow they had Idrises. Xenothreat had Idrises and were able to infiltrate UEE space without much effort. Yeah, while the UEE is still dealing with the Van Duel front, so they're split between the UEE and between defending the frontier from the Van Duel and also dealing with the pirates and brigands that are running fucking roughshod over their internal area. And now we hear pro-Mezer like activists are starting to act in Castra.
Take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
Take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
Sandy Sanderson just resubscribed for 40 months. Evening.
Hey, Sandy, thank you for that 40 months to support your very important pop, very Pennsylvania pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Paul, I hear you're buying 2 battle cruisers. Yes. And by 2 you mean 0? Yes. Effectively, what I'm trying to do with this video is explain that CIG's writers are exploring the fall of an empire. What does the fall of an empire look like? And what are the kind of things that happen with it? And the players get to play safely in the fall of an empire and sort of influence it. Because you're gonna fall, so the players can make like a governing council like EVE Online has. Well, really, you're going to have 2 different. I can see the Xi'an slowly installing pretense into Castra to prepare for take advantage of the faltering UEE. Yeah, you're not wrong. I could see that those anti-Mezers or those pro-Mezer loyalists or neo-Mezerites. In Castra, I could see them being a Xi'an plant, though I don't think the Xi'an are that devious. I don't think they would use that as an excuse. They're much more reflexive. They're proactive, but they're defensive proactive. They try to neutralize potential targets rather than instigate potential targets. So it would be more like the Xi'an already have a mole inside the Neo-Meserites and knew about them long ago. But I could see this as a pretense for the Xi'an to become more active in Castra affairs because of it. I don't know if they'd be false flag about the Xi'an. That's not their style. The Xi'an are cautious, but very. They think 5 moves ahead, but they're insanely cautious. They're not the kind of people to openly provoke an attack, because they know, especially with humanity, it's the old 40K meme where like the Eldar are dealing with monkeys, but you know, you can kill a monkey pretty easily. But what would you do if a gorilla jumped through your fucking window wearing body armor and wielding a shotgun? Yeah, you're more advanced than that gorilla, but that gorilla is gonna fucking kill you. I don't care how advanced you are, that gorilla is gonna fucking rip you apart. And to the Xi'an, we're the gorilla wearing armor holding a shotgun. You best not provoke it, because it could go off half-cocked and kill everyone. We will witness the collapse of the UEE, and we have an influence on terms of what comes after. Getting your potential enemy to destroy themselves is the most offensive strategy, but not if you risk being discovered yourself as being the instigators of that thconflict. Because if it's discovered that you were the one who's fomenting the internecine conflict between these two groups, you risk uniting those two groups against you. Okay, hold on, let me cook. Maybe the UE moves ILW to Sol to recruit more people to their ranks from Earth as they start to only think about people from the home world as loyal to the Empire? Maybe. I mean, like the time the Xi'an caught us trying to make contact with the Kurthok and got the dude and then immediately was like, we're not giving him back because you're fucking crazy. That was more of a, we were being too aggressive and the Xi'an were trying to tell us, back the fuck off. Is it possible to outsmart me? Perhaps. Perhaps. But I have yet to meet anyone who can outsmart a bullet. I don't know that there are the Kurthak. What are you talking about? You don't know who the Kurthak are? Is that what you're saying? We don't know what they are. No one knows what they are. All we know is that the Kurthak and the Xi'an have been embroiled in a millennia-long war called the Spirit Wars. As far as we know right now, the Spirit Wars are sort of on hold. There's like a ceasefire or like a tentative peace, but they're still in active war with a group called the Kurthak, the Xi'an are. And the war with the Kurthak is what pushed the Xi'an towards human space, and why they ended up running into us was because they forbade that direction in terms of like discovery and started moving our way. So what we see as Xi'an space in UEE and in Star Citizen is more like frontier space. It's their extreme frontier. Xi'an space is much larger than ours, like significantly larger, probably double to triple the size of the UEE. Xi'an Empire is fucking massive. That's the theory, is that the Kurthak are robots. I believe they are, because it makes sense in terms of narrative to make them robots, to make them a synthetic race, because it's sort of one of the major running themes in the Star Citizen story is that AI will always eventually turn on humanity, or will always eventually turn on its creators. Yeah, they're probably more advanced than the Xi'an, considering they murked the entire ruling family of the Xi'an Empire simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And then they went to the humanity discovered that they existed, and their first thought was, the Office of Executive Services, the OES, thought it was a great idea to try to make contact with them on the other side of Xi'an space, because maybe we could form an alliance against the Xi'an.
You can take away my spaceship.
Didn't turn out well. Nearly started a war with the Xi'an.
You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
Iris Dread Tide just resubscribed for 40 months. Excuse me, but I believe the PTU loading screen says not to broil, with or without an M, any cyan, including the ambassador's child. Also, heck the frickin' Castra citizens. May those Messer-loving losers meet the damaging end of a Moab.
Thank you so much there, Iris. You're very important, Pupper. Very impressive, very impressive. You rock. Just cheers and Josh. Just cheers.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Almost 4 years was insane.
Linux 506 just resubscribed for 11 months.
Thank you so much, Linux, for that 11 months of support. You're very important, Power. Very impressive, Mr. Very pedestrian.
You can take away my space suit.
Failing to ban me.
My space lasers. But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
G-Sharp just resubscribed for 86 months.
Thank you for that 86 months of support there, G-Sharp. You're very important, Papa. Very impressive, Mr. Very pedestrian. You rock. Shots, cheers, and shout, y'all. Shots, cheers. Hey, brother. Sorry I've been gone for so long. Been dealing with chronic jaw pain due to tooth abscess. Ooh, for a while now. Missed your videos and decided to pop in. Wish you the best. Thank you, buddy. I just released a latest video for the Astro Historian. It's more of a, like, hey, if you're new to the verse, show this to people. This is talking about a video I'm going to be doing on the UEE will fall. I'm doing another video on the UEE, the dystopian reality of the Star Citizen universe. The Star Citizen is actually a dystopia. It is not a fun place to be. The way that the writers discuss the average living conditions for your average person is awful. It would be horrendous to live in the Star Citizen universe. Like, us as players are unique in that we are wealthy. Effectively, we are very wealthy compared to the average citizen. Most citizens barely, or the average citizen, the average civilian, the average person who lives in the UEE barely gets by with a little bit of money. And it's not surprising that in most cases, they have two options. Join the military or join a gang. And there's so many stories about, like, that are supposed to be, it's the old theme about, like, you read a story about how a bunch of kids raised enough money so their teacher could get cancer treatment after the school denied the teacher, or the health insurance the school gave denied the teacher money for cancer treatment. It's like, that's a heartfelt story. And it's like, that's a fucking awful story. Why are children having to raise money for their teacher's cancer treatment? That's inhumane. That's kind of what it is. A lot of the stories, like Star City, like the Gemini Corporation, the Gemini founding members were fucking street urchins that cobbled together a hand cannon and managed to sell it on spec, and went from that to being a multi-million-dollar company. What's another good example? The founder of the IAE was so poor that her only chance to do what she loved, which is fly ships, was to join the Navy. And because she had absolutely no experience in sims to be able to understand how to fly, she wasn't allowed to fly. So she had to settle to be a mechanic, like a not even engineer, like a servicing Navy fighters. And she only got even a chance to start like flying and modifying ships on her own because of her citizenship, getting citizenship. Cousin Crow literally was sold to fucking Banu. He was sold to the Banu, or rented to the Banu by his mother, who had a drug problem, who taught him how to modify smuggler holds into ships and stuff like that. The founder of Keltu Reef, the main landing zone for Hadrian, was literally sold to the Banu as a child. Basically a child slave to the Banu. Like, this is horrific. like the UEE allows Hurston to exist. And when I say allows Hurston to exist, Hurston as a planet is awful. We've all been there. We see how awful that environment is. A choice, not a consequence of the terraforming. The people who live there are being actively taken advantage of. But they'd rather be there than anywhere else because it is literally impossible for most of them to find a job. Hurston doesn't just have UEE contracts. Hurston makes most of the antimatter weapons and most of the missiles of the UEE Navy. They are a major UEE contractor. This wonderful young boy collected empties for years to save money for his sister to get a prosthetic leg. It's less a feel-good story as much as it's a fucking warning sign that this is flashing this society is failing. Yeah. What's Area 18's deal? Everybody who works at Area 18 gets paid in script. So they don't get paid in actual credits. They get paid in ArtCorp script that they can only use at ArtCorp stores. So it's impossible for them to leave ArtCorp. And they work in literal death factories. The fusion reactor plants that ring the equator of ArtCorp are fatal. You'll die. Like there is working in those factories will kill you at a very young age. And most of the like ArtCorp and Area 18 is actually sublet. So like a bunch of different companies own portions of that. Oh, my soul to the company store. Yes. The average person in the UE lives on state scrip, housed in rabbit hutches, and attended over large and underfunded classrooms in the state prescribed schools. Yeah, it's not too unrealistic. Yeah. Is Microtech a bad employer? No, they're pretty good, but they're pretty much the only. It's like if Apple owned all of the tech industry. So you can imagine that's not good. Work for who, J-Dog? Crusader seems like utopia. Crusader's not bad. The major problem with Crusader is that Crusader is incompetent. The Crusader as a company should never be allowed to actually run a planet. There's a reason why Orison keeps getting fucking invaded by the Nine Tails. Siege of Orison happens because the Crusader lacks the stomach and the like ability to actually enforce the law. Tonight City is better? Yeah. Probably not, but yeah. Similar vibe. The biggest mining contractor in the verse is Shubin, and Shubin again works with mostly contractors. So it's kind of like if Uber Eats did mining. If Uber did mining, it's gig work. You don't get a lot of and for us that's fine because players, but for the average person who doesn't own a ship. Luckily, there's not a land for Crusader for insurgents to hide in. No, but there is a lot of fucking space stations. Grimhex is where they all hide, but the Crusader can't just nuke Grimhex because if they nuked Grimhex, they would kill a lot of innocent people. Effectively, Grimhex is that old trope of using civilians as a shield for your operations because most people in Grimhex are innocent, but it's controlled by the Nine Tails. So your average Grimhex resident isn't a Nine Tails gang operative, but the Nine Tails do use Grimhex for their operations. So you could nuke Grimhex tomorrow and it might do some damage, but it probably will do nothing but kill a bunch of civilians. How do you know they're all innocent? I mean, they're not all innocent, but a large amount of the people who live in Grimhex are simply there because they want to live off the grid. That's not to mention that, the Dusters exist. I heard they're bringing Porto back as a museum in Castro. What I don't know what Porto is. And if I recall, the UE won't lend extra manpower to help them make it cleaner out to take it out. No, because they're too busy dealing with the Vandul. So that's all of that. Now let's turn to the other problem, which is the UEE itself. It's falling the fuck apart. Literally. The infrastructure most of it is built under the Mezzers, and it's now been hundreds of years since the last major infrastructure overhaul. The UE doesn't have any money to pay for infrastructure. But they got money for the fucking military. That's what the whole Polo Initiative was all about. It was specifically to pull money away from the military to pay for civilian projects, and the military was very pissed about that and very against that. No, we're not doing caps right now. Got money on the synth world too, exactly. Which apparently there are some technologies that were developed because of synth world, but a lot of that stuff is still classified, so the average person isn't using it. And so we're talking about the military. It's the one way you can advance in the universe of Star Citizen. And since the invention of regen, oh boy, I imagine there's a lot of death that's happening in the UE Navy now when you can regen. What the hell is the synth world boondoggle then? They're trying to create a planet out of scratch. And by planet, I mean like a perfect world. The idea being that if you could create a perfect world that has the most, that can hold the most number of people you possibly can, like a synthetic world, then you wouldn't need to go find new worlds to terraform because you could just build them. And so the idea is to try to build planets. Paul, do you think they'll the Emperor will rise to conquer the galaxy, and that these sickening truths will only be revealed to us one day? I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what the Stimperer is. Our curiosity, if we are technologically advanced to make our own planet, the Xi'an just as advanced to make their own planet since they're more technological advanced. Well, it's just different levels of technology. And maybe the Xi'an just don't have the intent. I don't think the Xi'an have regen, for instance. Like, humanity invented regen first. We know it works with the Tavaran, so it probably worked with the Xi'an as well. But we know that humanity was the first to actually create it. Of course, we stole it from the Vanduul, but only the imprint tech was what we saw with the Vanduul. Vivisection for the Astropub. Okay. I don't know what the Stimperer is, so I don't know what you're referencing. I'm wondering why I never thought of the relative expenditures of terraforming an existing world versus fabricating one from whole cloth. I know the UE higher-ups are idiots, but... And then why do we have a Dyson sphere since we have the ability to create a planet from scratch? Why can't we build Dyson spheres? Well, that's the problem. We don't have the ability to build planets from scratch. We failed. That's what the synth world is. It's an attempt to do that, and we're failing at it. We've been doing it for 150 years and failing at it. How are you the lore guy and don't know of the Stemperer? Basically canon at this point. You'll have to send it to me later. I have no idea what you're referencing. It's not lore, really. I know the Emperor. Or Imperator, but... I just Googled it. This is something awful shit. 10 years ago. The fuck? I just looked up as someone named the Stimperer on Reddit, and they started the last time they posted was in Star Citizen Refunds 4 years ago, and then they posted in Gamers Nexus a year ago, And then Linus Tech Tips a year ago. And then recently, 15 days ago, in Vintage Swig. Or Vintage Sewing. I don't know what the fuck this is. This feels like try-hard shit. Yeah, I don't know. It's a character with fanfic that was written by Star Citizen Forum years ago. Not much of that one. Not much known about that. Or it's actually there now, even though its Synth World project failed. They keep it as a base, so what does it do? They're still doing it. They're still trying it. No, they did not invent regen. They took regen from the Vanduul and used it combined with DNA. Well, here's the thing, Renamon. It is not a the actual goo, like the actual bringing someone back to life, is not the Vanduul tech. The Vanduul tech is the Ibrahim sphere. It's the imprint. So the imprint is the Vanduul tech that we stole. The actual printing process, bringing someone back using the print, is human. That's human designed. We don't know if this Vanduul have something similar. How much did the synth world turn out to be no-show jobs and donation kickbacks loops through private contractors? That's the question. I don't know. How does Squadron 42 deal with the regen stuff? Soldiers can come back, right? Squadron 42 takes place before regen was invented. So regen was invented in 2950. The Battle of Vega takes place in 2945. So 5 years before regen was invented. It's actually theorized that maybe not in Squadron 42 Part 1, but in one of the parts, Part 2 or Part 3, is actually, that story is actually, our character is involved in recovering that technology that's used for regen. How are you, the lore guy, and not know if you don't know the lore of your favorite ship, the Redeemer? I do know the lore of my favorite ship, the Redeemer. It is both contradictory and non-existent at the same time. Oh, we might be in the young Yorit. A young Yorit and a young Ibrahim. Dr. Aka Ibrahim would be cool. Man, imagine dying to a massive battle with insane casualties where the humanity discovered infinite lives. You mean Vega? Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I have a theory that Yorit is actually one of the scientists who was on the project to create regen. From his notes, we don't know when a lot of these notes were being made in Onyx. We don't know how old Onyx actually is, but it could date back to around the time regen was first created. And regen's only been around for so long, but he seems to be one of the few experts in it. Squadron 42 has imprinting and cloning tech and storyline yet? Nope. Nope. This is before regen exists. So if my character dies in Squadron 42, they die forever. Yep. I can see that. I could see players being the player character in Squadron 42 being the first person ever to have been regened. I can see that. That'd be a hell of a story to tell. Yort is still alive. We don't know where Yort is. Wait, doesn't the trailer say your regen was complete? No. I'll pull it up for you. We'll watch it. I always have an excuse to watch the Star Squad 42 trailer. The regen price is either completed or it's still ongoing, but I think it's completed is what it is. They fixed it.
I do solemnly pledge, mind and body, I will defend the Empire with my life.
Your application to the Flight Academy has been reconsidered. Captain McLaren had submitted a letter of recommendation on your behalf before the battle.
It's fine.
He says, you're fine. It's safe. You're safe.
We may be a small crew, but the work we do matters.
Welcome to the Stanton. I'm Eugene Morrow.
I'm Petty Officer Webster, Chief Mechanic.
This will be your new home.
We got you flying with Lieutenant Commander Colton. He's one of our best.
Sir? Who the hell are you? I'm your new wingman, sir. The name's...
You want me to learn your name? You live long enough for me to care.
Baron Actual, you're clear to launch.
Launching in 3, 2, 1.
Much patriotism, such wow. Yes. This is what happened after Christopher Blair, after Wing Commander Process. He just got isekai'd into the verse. What's a great quote there, G Sharp? Your name? Live long enough for me to care. Yes. It should be a faster dev cycle than 13 years for sure. Because CIG said that they're going to use what they already have, and they're going to build that. They're going to build levels and stuff like that with what they have. They'll probably have some changes, but those changes will probably be stuff that they've elucidated through Star Citizen, using Star Citizen as sort of like a building block for the next part. But it's going to use the same engine and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's talk about ship insurance. Oh, I think it's October. Almost certainly it's going to be October. So how insurance works is you go to the ASOP terminal once you've done a loadout in your Mobi-Glass, and you take a snapshot. You hit a snapshot button for snapshot for the ship itself. That will preserve whatever you put on there for rebuy. So when you fly and you go out and your ship explodes, you can claim your ship either through all the stuff you've insured with money, so you have to pay additional money for your ship, or you can get it back for free with all the basic gear. So you'll lose all of your improvements. Ooh. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze again. So you can get all your stuff back, but you have to pay money for it. So every time you lose a ship, you have to, if you have upgrades on it, you have to pay for those upgrades. Do it a discount to bring back the wreck? No. Not that I know of. Woo, time to test the third rail. Yep, it's one of the third rails. So, as far as I know, as far as I've seen, timers are gone. There is no more timer. It is simply a money purchase. So you get your ships faster, but if you don't care about the upgrades. Oh, I'm gonna go sneeze real quickly or blow my nose real quick. Yeah, there'll likely be timers or longer timers in the future. And they'll likely be more connected to where you are versus and the ship itself compared to where they are now. But yeah, the timers are going to come back. They're just likely, I would assume they will. But we'll know more when they do a Q&A about it. You don't trigger the timers, they automatically activate. Okay. Timers are there, they just tick on the background when your ship is, even when your ship is in use. Okay. Effectively, what this is the Elite Dangerous style of ship insurance. Don't fly without rebuy. I like the idea of the snapshot, and you only have to pay the money for its recovery when you claim the ship. Yeah. So you can leave it unclaimed, go get the money, and then pay for it if you need to. Elite Dangerous is a discount for your rebuy. That is true. And I think CIG makes it 100%, which I don't like. I'd like for them to have a discount for the rebuy. It's like $500,000 to rebuy a fully upgraded Idris. Don't we already pay money when claiming ships to expedite the claim? Yes, and you no longer have to do that. So you no longer have to pay money to expedite the claim. When you have spawned a ship in, the timer already starts. So when you spawn the ship in onto your hangar, the timer starts in the background for you to claim your ship again in the future. Yeah, you also are no longer going to be transporting ship with reclaim. The transporting ship with reclaim is a bad idea, especially if it's upgraded, because you're just going to lose it. Fun fact, you cannot use the fab on your own bricked parts to print ore. It doesn't work. They thought of that one. Okay. So, but you can still salvage, I assume. Ooh, 500,000 people have billions of billions CIG, including me. But the point being, now is a good time to do it because people have a lot of money. There was a statement, could be an error. We may see a cost claims all future. The cost will be significantly higher than a default claim. I mean, obviously they should be higher, but they shouldn't be like 100%. Yeah, you won't be able to get the components out. They'll be bricked. Right, but right now your default claim is 0. Yes. Because if you have insurance, it should be 0. You pay your insurance premium, not out of pocket. The insurance covers specific tiers of items or specific levels of customization. Lead has the ability to move stuff around the verse by paying for it, and by the time the time and cost depends on how far you're moving it. I like something like that. Also guaranteed missions for players to move stuff. I'd like that without the players stuff, but you could also do that with players. CG has not quite thought through their cunning plan. How are they planning on getting people's second ship to a location? It isn't like we can hire someone. It isn't like they have a useful method of moving ships besides flying, claim and flying. We'll see. I don't know what that was in for their eye chomp, but yeah. I'm sorry, but if anyone CIG is watching, just plagiarize the FDev and use their insurance system. It works. But they kind of are, though. That's what they're doing right now, effectively. The only major difference is that the price for reclaim or for rebuy with stuff is much higher. Nope, you cannot dismantle brick components for materials. It gives me escape from Tarkov. I haven't played enough to really know what that does. We will do it like Elite Dangerous, spawn in Aurora as our taxi. Station taxi. Well, that's the next step. The next part of item recovery version 1 is removing backspace. So you'll have to do the same thing you do with ships, but with your loadout. So bricked are literally dead weights. Yep. Yeah, eventually you'll be able to restore them, but you have to use time and energy to do so. Remove backspace, but my fast travel. Exactly. They're going to want to remove your fast travel abilities. And the step after that is to make it so that you when you log out, you log back in where you last logged out. Can you verify that? Sure. Let me pull up the item recovery 1.0. So, Tier 1, loadout and ship registration. We'll introduce the ability to register your gear and ships at kiosk and ASOP terminals. Personal loadout. Players can register their equipment items, which can be reclaimed for a fee at specific kiosks or freight elevators. Ships and ship interiors. Ships along with their loadouts, decorations, and locker contents can also be registered. They can be reclaimed in the state they were previously registered at an ASOP terminal for a price. Looting and bricked items. Once an item is looted, it means it remains unusable until the original owner reclaims it. Means usable until the original owner reclaims it or marks it as stolen. At that point, Dead Man Switch is activated, meaning the cease to function after a period of time. While a looted and or stolen bricked item is no longer useful, you can still sell the item for credits. Pledge items are no longer registered and will never lose their registration status. They can always be claimed back even if you were not manually registered. With T1, you will no longer respawn with your preserved gear already equipped. You will need to visit a location such as your freight elevator to reclaim your registered items. So if you die and regen, you lose your items. So you have to go there and reclaim it. We're developing a quality of life feature that will allow you to re-equip your previous loadout with a auto-equipped button at this location. Additionally, with the implementation of T1, our current plan is to remove the ability to backspace out of dangerous scenarios as a way to retain gear. There you go. You're losing your backspace. Specifically, you're losing the ability to backspace out of dangerous scenarios. So how would you interpret that other than you're not going to be able to backspace? Because you already have a situation where it's like a combat timer. I don't think you'll be able to backspace out during combat. But I also think that effectively means you're not backspacing anywhere. The only answer is an unstuck. If CIG adds an unstuck, that will sort of reorient you to where you were last, which I think is a reasonable solution to the backspace problem, at least until 1.0. I always get worried when we lose the arcade gamers versus sim gamers over things that are known for in the game's future. So no, 4.8 will not have a respawn where you log out, but it's likely going to come in the next couple of patches, probably next year, because like we only have 3 patches left. We're losing backspace as a way to retain gear, not altogether. But how would you define that? Because if you backspace to retain gear, you already are losing the backspace to retain gear, because if you backspace or if you die, you lose your gear. You have to go claim it. There's no reason why Xylo would mention it twice in the same thing, because he already says it here. With Tier 1, you will no longer respawn with your preserved gear already equipped. You will need to visit a location, such as a freight elevator, to reclaim your registered items. We are developing a quality of life feature that will let you re-equip your previous full with one auto-equip. Like literally, the sentence or the paragraph before, he says that. Why would he say it again? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless this specifically is just referencing they're going to remove backspace. The only possible interpretation that isn't removing backspace is they'll have a combat timer where you cannot backspace while you're in combat. That's the only other interpretation it can be. Unstuck would move you to 10 meters or so back to the last safe location you stood in. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I would not put it past CIG to remove backspace entirely and not have an unstuck button because they didn't realize they needed one. Despite everyone screaming at them, they need an unstuck button if they're doing this. And then they will suddenly fast track a team to work on the unstuck button for the very next patch because they're like, oh shit, we fucked up. Because that's clearly what happened with social tools. They clearly fast track social tools because at the end of last year, people were like, these are all really neat ideas, CIG. You're going to do social tools pretty quickly, right? And CIG had no plans on doing social tools quickly. So they're like, we need to focus on social tools. And so they didn't really start the focus on social tools until like last month, which to be granted was the third month of the year, but still, they had planned on getting tactical strike groups out before they had social tools that would support it. Where's there social tools, CIG? Goose mean, yes. I interpret that Xylo thinks people need to repetition to get the info through. I don't think so, because he would have also put it in like a bullet point and stuff like that. It was the only thing that was not bullet pointed. In that sort of like T1. No, I agree. They need NPC medical services, but they also need players to be able to get NPC medical beacons. With 4.8, they're doing refueling, which I think is a step in that direction. They did the Anakin meme asking about social tools. Yes. Prospector, you are a braver person than I. I play this game a lot, but I don't play it like a main game style. Though you are getting into a better position than most people are. Star Citizen's going to end up being a lot better at the end of the year, this year, than it was in previous years, though. And again, that's kind of been CIG's thing. I tried playing Star Citizen like a main game. I lost time and effort while trying to play it. Yeah. You will get burned. We're going to do another capsule next week, because next week is going to be when they do the monthly report, so we can do a monthly report on that one. You're right. They want the game to in a great playable place when Squadron 42 comes out. I don't know if it'll be great, but it'll definitely be more playable than it is now. Okay, teacher Paul, repetition is good for learning. It depends. It can be, but if you're going to use repetition, you want to make sure that you're doing so in a way that restates the question or restates the statement in a different way. It's kind of like, if I say 2 + 2 = 4, or like 2 + 3 = 5, that's fine. But if I say 3 + 2 = 5, that's saying the same thing but reversed. So if you can say the same thing in a bunch of different ways, attack it from different angles, it helps the student learn. And doing something over and over and over again can help. But there's a difference between repetition and like writing something down 1,000 times and someone saying it twice. Someone saying it twice isn't repetition. That's just saying something twice. I really think Squadron 2 is going to be awesome looking at the trailer. It should be fun. I don't, as long as they don't fuck up the performance, that's the big thing, performance. As long as they don't fuck up the performance, I think it'll be, like performance, I think the gameplay will be fun enough for most people. I'm just going to get the mechanics that you have in Squadron. Are they going to bring that into the PU? Because if they are, that means you're going to bring in maintenance and everything else, because it looks like you can turn valves on and everything. Some of it is going to come in, but I don't think it'll come in before the end of the year. But we already do have switches and stuff like that. With Rockbreaker, there's an entire section that requires you to like hit a switch. Those valves and stuff like that are for puzzles inside of Squadron. So we'll likely see puzzles that utilize that stuff in Star Citizen further down the line. Like, for instance, the next major event after, or next major, like, what do they call it? Dungeon after Tactical Strike Groups, which is the depths, the Levski depths, the municipal works. That is the next one. I play a lot, but I'm starting to realize I need to play other stuff and limit my exposure to the verse. The way that the game stays fresh like a rose. Yeah, it can. Vandal Tech Missions as a Switch, yeah. That was me. Star Citizen played me on the day I tried to complete the CFP intro rep mission, turn around 28 times. By some miracle, I got enemy markers working and the mission completed after 8 hours of trying. Oh. No way they're going to reuse all the animation assets they built. They're not going to reuse all the animation they built for Squadron 42. Absolutely. CIG is going to skin every part of that buffalo and use it again. I don't think Star Citizen will ever be a great respecter of players' time, but I do think that CIG is going to do their best to create systems that will do that. Like, for instance, travel is always going to be a pain in the ass. You're never going to have a situation where traveling long distances isn't tedious and time-consuming. But it's a lot better now than it was originally planned to be. Getting through a systems is like 20 minutes now, whereas it used to be, that was like going across a system was 20 minutes. But now going from one system to another is like 20. Yeah, so just saying Prospector, yeah. They don't need all the animations from Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. They don't need them, but they're going to reuse them. They're gonna do their best to reuse them because they got the assets, so they'll figure out something to do it with. Less of a, we need them, and more of a, what can we do with this? Using single-player animations in a multiplayer game will be a choice. I mean, that's one of the reasons why CIG is taking a long time getting stuff into Star Citizen. It just takes time to port from one thing to another. It's not too unusual. I mean, there are like cutscenes in GTA Online and such. You reuse a lot of the animations in from Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online. Do you think they ever bring a single player version of Star Citizen they can play offline like GTA has? Yes, but I don't think you will see a offline version of Star Citizen officially. I think players will mod it once Squadron 42 comes in. Once Squadron 42 is released. And on top of that, I think CIG will create Star Citizen Privateer. So think Wing Commander Privateer, but Star Citizen, where it's a single-player narrative experience in the sandbox. So less of a offline like Elite mode, and more of a separate storyline that'll you unlock things going through it. But that's more of a post Squadron 42 release sort of thing. Star Citizen was always going to be sold as much about the planning as the doing, and I, for one, love that aspect. It's great. I think it's a good idea, and I do think that if CIG can gamify some of those systems, they can, in fact, improve the overall quality. Yeah, if you mine, or if they have an offline section, if they do something like Squadron 42 or like Star Citizen Privateer, your mining and salvage is not going to be something you do offline and then be able to get access to it online. That's not going to happen. I'm sure someday CIG will make systems that respect player time more, under duress, kicking and screaming after losing money. Oh, yeah, almost certainly. Or at least from an internal mutiny from CIG staff. I think having things to do is respecting players' time. What isn't is broken gameplay, and that's something that I fully expect to improve over time. That's for sure. Single-player animations work fine in multiplayer games. The problem with single-player animations is that most single-player animations typically are only meant to be seen by the player themselves, not other people around them. So they don't have to be synced with the universe. So a player animation in single-player game versus a multiplayer game, you could probably do it with multiplayer, but you probably need to sync the animations with each other. Otherwise, it'll look weird. So more like a Star Citizen Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, I mean, or like a Privateer or Freelancer, like the original Wing Commander Privateer or Chris's Freelancer game. Do you think they'll add the Odin system to Star Citizen next year? No, I think that this Odin system will be a post 1.0 release. Yeah, you missed the insurance stuff. You just kind of had it though, first tasty. I'm a little iffy on the current system. I think it's a fine system. I need to know more about like the details and the edge cases. But I do think that one of the critiques I know of it is, you know, insert my ship breaks every 5 seconds. And I get it. Bugs happen. Bugs are going to always happen in Star Citizen until 1.0 and even after 1.0. But on the flip side, if CIG waited till there was absolutely no bugs and it was absolutely perfect, by introducing this system, they would introduce bugs which would break your ships. So it is better to do this now than it is to do later, because no matter what, you're going to get bugs anyways. And if CIG gets bugs now, where people are more forgiving of bugs than they are usually, they would be later, then CIG can work out the kinks and fix those. I mean, that's true of all animations in a multiplayer game in general. True, but the difference being that if a game... if a single-player game has an animation set that they're using, they never intended for it to be in multiplayer, so there's some weird aspects usually of those animations, which sometimes can look good in first person that don't look good from the outside. Like, let me see if I can see the example with CD Projekt or with Cyberpunk. There you go. This is the one. This is from Reddit. To give you an idea. So this is what third-person Cyberpunk looks like in the unmodded third person. Maybe they can lessen the impact by changing the cost of things. I expect that to happen too. One of the things that they definitely want to do, though, is they want to force players to take care of their ships more and themselves more. They want to make sure that players aren't just running out and dying and saying, whatever, I can regen. They want players to not to be like, oh shit, I need to save my ship, rather than abandoning their ship and then trying to get a new ship. They're trying to, they want to instill the idea that your ship is valuable and it's a pain in the ass to recover it. So try to recover it before you lose it. Yeah, so it's basically CIG is trying to do with these changes is like stop playing Star Citizen like it's a Call of Duty game or a Battlefield game. It's not. It's designed to be more slow. It's designed to have a little bit more impact, that kind of thing. How do you think they're going to distinguish your reputation between the main organization and affiliates organizations? Not a clue. They should try to act that. I mean, I was shitting on him all the time for that. I actively shat on him for the, like, scope glint boy. And mostly because, again, and I've said this again, and I'll continue to say this, in the universe of Star Citizen, the laziest response you can give, the laziest answer you can give to how do I deal with snipers is Battlefield 3. That is a lazy ass fucking response. It's already controversial in FPS games. And you're in a science fiction universe with fucking bird aliens and crab ships. And you're with FPS ping. And you're saying you can't use the same technology for something interesting for a gameplay so a player can actually have long range ping with specific equipment so that they can find snipers. That is far more interesting of a gameplay mechanic than I see a flashlight. I see a little glint, you know? Do you think these changes will piss off the PvP community? I'm gonna be honest. I like PvPers. I have friends who are PvPers, but just like everybody else in Star Citizen, free change pisses off PvPers. Like, there's nothing that won't piss off PvPers. Or non-PvPers. Like, the Star Citizen community is more dramatic than a soap opera when it comes to changes, good or bad. The problem is this a big deal that it should be made a big deal of, or is this the flavor of the week that somebody's mad at and they're just venting? That's the hard part of telling the difference between the two. I don't even know the difference between the two sometimes. More drama-filled than a Brazilian soap opera. Yeah. I just understand how they're going to PvP and PvP, PD and PvP to keep both sides happy. The honest to God answer is CIG needs to create zones where PvP is easier to engage in and more rewarding as a result. What they seem to be implying when they were talking about 1.0 stuff is that Pyro is PvP. Pyro is the PvP zone. You go to Pyro if you want to fight other players, but you're also going to fight harder enemies. So PvE and PvP will be mixed in that area, so you'll have to deal with that more often. It's going to be harder to do it in Stanton, even harder in Castra and Nyx, or Castra and Terra. And Nyx will be sort of a middle ground point where you can have PvP, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Pyro got so watered down. Pyro didn't get watered down. Pyro is abandoned. Like, I have said this theory for a while. I still stick by it. I think CIG got to the point where they actually started to get to talk about and implement Genesis as a system. And they were like, we can wait until we get Genesis up and running and then release Pyro, or we can just get Pyro the fuck out because we have the technology. And they just said, fuck it, we ball. And they just pushed out the Pyro system because it was better to push out the Pyro system to give people Pyro, that even if it wasn't completely done, than it was to rebuild the whole system and wait years for it to be built and rebuild the whole system from scratch. Now that they have the Genesis system, it's clear that they're probably going to have to redo Pyro from scratch again. But it's better they have Pyro now and go back and fix it than have Pyro later. CZs have been busted for 6 months. They forgot Pyro exists. Exactly. CAG is also taking all reasons out to even run CZs. Like, honestly, CZs feel like the results of a game that was being designed before crafting. It was back when CIG was trying to recreate Starkov. To create Starkov, to trade Tarkov in space. To turn Star Citizen into a looter shooter. So they're going to redo the Pyro system with Genesis. Not in lore, but just in general. Yes, they will eventually have to redo Stanton as well with Genesis. But I think Genesis, Stanton's rework is going to be a little bit delayed because Stanton is fine. I think Stanton's probably 1.0 fine. And the other thing is that whatever they do, they're going to have to redesign how they do generate buildings, like they did with all the landing zones in Stanton. And they're going to, especially with our corp, they're going to have to redo that whole planet. So my guess is we see Nyx being finished with Genesis, then Castor with Genesis, then Terra with Genesis. And whatever tech they use to build the cities of Terra, they're going to use that for Stanton. But I do think that once they get Terra done, they'll go back to Pyro and redo Pyro. Then lastly, Stanton. The mission team tends to build for the game we have rather than the game we're building, and that frustrates the shit out of me. You and me both, buddy. You and me both. It shows that CIG's development team doesn't fundamentally know where the fuck they're going. Though I think that's changed recently, especially with the release of Nyx. They don't know how to do how to MMO. PT, the good boy. The stations of Pyro need to offer less to the players. Maybe have no fuel, some have no med gel, so no respawns, or just fewer stations. Yo, the new loading screen talks about Sherman Paul. Sorry if you'd already mentioned it. I have, but as has been pointed out, I was fucking right. I think we're having. I said we're getting Castor this year. People said I was crazy. Everything's coming up, Paul. I am both crazy and right at the same time. Pyro didn't get watered down. Players left it. If Pyro had kept its solar flare and that asteroid belt, they took out more players. They took out more players would still be hanging around Pyro. I don't think so. I think people would be avoiding it because they wouldn't want to get hit with the solar flare. They're gonna bring back the solar flare, but I think that's a Genesis thing. The mission team is unfortunately a downstream team. Are the land masses we see in Nyx 1 in the Star Map going to be accurate in game? I have no idea. Probably. You see, it looks like multiple desert biomes and a huge one that's probably hundreds of miles across. I don't know. I could not tell you. What I was saying earlier about a museum in Castra, someone said they're moving Port Olisar as a museum in Castra. Oh, it'd be interesting. Solar flare isn't really gameplay in my opinion. Oh, it is. It is. Because the solar flare is not just a solar flare, it's a coronal mass ejection. And it's an radiation and interference field. So it's an event that happens that you have to worry about and you have to prepare for. The other advantage of CMEs is that if you do them for Pyro, you can do them for every other star. And if you do them for every other star, you can just make them lesser and every other star compared to Pyro. I also want the classic ion storm, meteorite storms, that kind of stuff. Ion storms are dumb, but I love them as a sci-fi concept. I mean, you're not going to Pyro for the solar flare. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be going to Pyro to solar flare. It's just a shit you have to deal with while you're there. The simplest solution is when the CME hits, you get a certain amount of distortion that's added to all of your equipment. And it's reduced by your shield and your armor plating. And then players on the ground will receive radiation damage. Because that's a thing. Flight suits getting cooked. The flight suits thing I don't know really about. For as far as I understand about this flight suits, is that the flight suits give you better handling. You don't pass out as much if you're wearing those flight suits and only those flight suits. That one I don't know. I haven't been able to test that. Flight suits help with G's while wearing armor. Over it reduces G protection. Okay. Moving a whole station through a jump point. I can't wait to see the explanations for that one. Did you see the bangle? Bangle is very big. Wearing a heavy armor is now a mistake if you're flying in combat. Okay. Good to know. I think each iteration of a system, they should give already established systems some of that love. Then rework places, then deal with places like ArcCorp rework before they do the main system of main rework of Stanton. I mean, I don't think CIG cares. I think CIG is more interested in getting new stuff out and then going back and fixing stuff later. I did some testing. It looks like I'm going to have to switch suits if I'm going to be flying fighters. I imagine it affects gunners as well, only because it's straight up a G force resistance, not just pilot. I'm really curious what's taking so long with suit lockers. My guess it has to do with the back end inventory swap over. They're doing the new inventory system, the one that's based off of the current main system they have. That's for like purchased chips. Because they also said specifically that tier 1 ships are supposed to be able to ship tier 1 item recovery when you do a snapshot of your ship. It doesn't just save your ship's components. It's supposed to also save all the decorations and the like armor and weapons you've placed inside the ship as well. So it's supposed to do a full snapshot, which would mean that you would need your suit lockers to work for that. So I imagine that The fact that the suit lockers aren't working with that snapshot means that they're waiting for something else in the back end. And the only thing I can think of is that the inventory system that they're working on. The thing with suit lockers is that they aren't elevators, and how does anyone even handle that? CSG doesn't even know how to do things without elevators. I know, right? I'm just sad item durability didn't come with item recovery tier 1. More like item recovery tier 0.5 rather than 1, but yeah. Yeah, they don't show the FPS weapons and stuff like that yet. That's going to be later. So the fact that we haven't had FPS T1 item recovery for FPS gear and items tells me that they or first person gear and items tells me that there's something else in the back end I need to fix. Oh. But yeah, like we just read what I was saying, Dex, is reading through the tier 1 item recovery. This is sort of half of that with the ship stuff. And it's minus all the FPS stuff. So there are pro-measure protests going on in Sherman. That's definitely future narrative hints. CIG doesn't just do that with their splash screens. That's a hint at a new long-term event like the Regen Crisis, like the Shattered Blade, like the Tactical Fleet Ops. Just to confirm, they currently insured testing. They're currently insured testing it again with the new patch now. They shouldn't be currently insured with the FPS stuff. It's just the ship equipment, like item components and weapons and such. We've had it on ships before. That was a bug, though. What protests? Splash screen. Specifically with the splash screen, they said Emancipation Day celebrations disrupted by protests. Demonstrators have been seen holding banners with pro-measure messaging. Sherman's local Emancipation Day celebrations were forced to finish early when a group of protesters suddenly stormed the parade route. Footage from the event shows demonstrators calling for a dissolution of the current government and return to the, quote, golden age, unquote, of the Measure dynasty. The CASCOM police made multiple arrests as members of the group manacled themselves to parade vehicles. Looking forward to killing space Nazis and then finding out what the space Nazis are good at, are the good guys or something. What about the current weapons lockers on ships? In the new utility locker, some ships have. Are they part of that snapshot too? Not with the current build, no. Not as far as I know. They will be in the distant future, but probably not with this patch. Mishandling of turtle yields shocking results. A new dangerous trend sweeping across Spectrum has experts warning that while some turtles can conduct electricity, it's cruel to use them as emergency fuses. That is the writers getting cheeky because they found out that we used turtles as fuses. So cash for this year. Yep. As I said at the very beginning of the year that I fully expect cash to come out this year. Writing as subtle as a sledgehammer. CIG does not do subtlety. They're not very good at subtlety. After the Navy's unexpected cancellation of their planned Invictus launch week in Stanton system, focused on one central event in the Sol system, Drake Interplanetary quickly seized the opportunity to expand their annual DrakeCon event. Billed as a celebration of the, quote, everyday heroes, unquote, of the Empire, the ship manufacturer surprisingly honored the reservations made by their competitors, who had already booked space for the Invictus, for Invictus, and invited them to show off their latest vehicles at the Bedbeck Convention Center in Area 18, ArcCorp. It now seems that Drake's gamble is going to pay off, as the attendance numbers are expected to be significantly higher than those of last year's Invictus. When asked for comment, Drake CEO Andon Arden said, quote, after years of the same old military pomp, it's no wonder people are ready for a change. Don't get me wrong, this is still a celebration of the Empire. We're just making sure to honor everyone who has their, who has an important part to play. Did we get some news solidify the Castro idea? Yes. So in the splash screen, they specifically mention a protest at the Emancipation Day, which is a anniversary of the fall of the Mezzers. So specifically Sherman's Emancipation Day, which is the capital city of Cascom, which is Castra, had pro-Mezzer loyalists, pro-Mezzer protesters who interrupted the celebration and chain themselves to the parade vehicles. Remember, silence brand applies to Drake too. Yeah, but while they're doing based shit, I'm gonna let them do based shit. All right, y'all. Since there's no capsule, I'm going to call it there because it is getting late here. And I've already streamed for 3.5 hours, and I'm very bleh right now between the nose running and cough. So I should be fine tomorrow, but we'll see. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. Y'all are fucking amazing. Y'all did some great shit today. It's been good to just hang out and talk, especially talking about the latest stuff. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.